It's time to step into the Coming Out Lounge, a cool, safe space to be true to your sexual self. With your host, Rick Clemens. Rick has helped hundreds of people come out of the closet, and now each week he's bringing you cool insights for loving and accepting yourself, boosting your self-confidence, and living a guilt-free, purpose-filled life on the other side of the closet doors. Cuddle up with yourself and get ready for heartwarming coming out stories, ideas for living authentically, and tips for being fully self-expressed. Now here's your host, Coming Out Coach Rick.
Hey, closet dwellers and closet busters. It is time once again for the Coming Out Lounge. I'm Rick Clemens, your host. You know who I am. The Coming Out Coach, the guy that helps you hopefully simplify your life to make some big, bold moves, no matter what those bold moves may be coming out of your closet. And today, I thought it would be really kind of cool that we really connect, because I believe connection is so damn important no matter what that closet is that you're coming out of. So it could be connecting the dots or creating new connections. It could be, what are all the connections we need to make? So no matter how we look at this, it's about connecting, because I believe when we're connected, we have more compassion. And when we're connected, we can really begin to understand each other's differences. And when we're connected, well, we might even get some tickets to see Hamilton on Broadway, but you have to be really connected for that. And that's all about a different freaking podcast we could go into, but we're not going to go there. So today I wanted to bring in somebody who I have known for quite a few years now. He is a fellow coach. He's a connection guru. He's a really smart guy, and he's a lot of fun. And we may get a little silly here today, but we're going to be really talking about those connections to come out of your closet so that we can be more understanding, more sharing, more compassionate. Hopefully that will wash over to those we're coming out to, and they can do the same thing. So I want to welcome to the show my friend, Alan Cohen. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Rick. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You bet. And he is coming to us live from New York City. So he might just have some connections to Hamilton on Broadway, but he will be, giving those connections to me first before anybody else. So. I guess it's probably been 6 years that we met each other, and then you were doing your coaching thing, I was doing my coaching thing, but it was a couple of years ago that we actually got our first time to really spend time together at the Braveheart retreat in Bermuda, I think.
And we fell in love.
We did fall in love, and we really connected. So how ironic that we're doing a show on connection today. So, but you really do, this is one of your passion projects in your world of creating connections and teaching people how to do this, correct?
Absolutely. I think it's always been a part of who I am. It's been very much part of my DNA, but it's only really probably in the past 2 years where I realized it is it's so much a part of everything that I do in business and in my relationships, and it frames the narrative of my life in a way that I only recently really started to realize and piece together.
But I think part of that comes from the connection you made with yourself, right? You really had to connect to you in order to realize, wow, this starts with me, but it goes well beyond my own being. It goes out into the world in the way that I show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that going through so much personal development and that journey, you start really seeing the themes and threads and that inform one's life, and then connect. We're going to use that word a lot tonight, I guess, and connect to all of those experiences that really help define who you are and speak to the essence of what you're about.
Right. So really, a lot of this really started for you. You were in PR for many, many years and held some pretty big positions in different places, and really, PR is about connections, right? Let's not sugarcoat what it's really about.
My parents tease me that from the age of 5 or 6 or 7, I was always about connection. I would knock on the neighbors' doors and invite them to events that I was throwing in the backyard that they didn't know anything about. And I was always about kind of like the Pied Piper, just bringing kids around and trying to make everybody feel like a part of and that they belonged. And then that kind of then went into public relations and had very connected roles in PR and helping clients connect to their customers or connecting the media to the stories and really connecting teams to their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I didn't realize at the time that that's what I was doing. I think it was only later when I became a coach that I realized that really is what I'm about. For me, it was kind of like, doesn't everybody do this? Isn't this just what we do as human beings and extroverts? And I also didn't realize that other people weren't extroverts.
Right. No,
I've since realized that.
Yeah. But it is something that's really hard for a lot of people. And I think for a lot of people, it comes from a place of they're not really connected to themselves, or if they are connected to themselves, it's just a part of who they are, and making connections and networking and being out there. I mean, we all know the introverts and the, wallflowers and stuff. We know what those people are like, but sometimes they get really beat up because, oh my gosh, you just never connect with people. And it's like they're connecting in their own way. I mean, that's the bottom line. Yeah. And I think that's why we need to make room in the world for people to create their connections their way.
Exactly. And, I guess we'll talk about it in a bit, but I also experienced extreme periods of disconnection in my life. And it was part of my coming out story. Certainly, I know what it's like to be an extrovert, but also to feel very, very separate and apart of and apart from. And so I think people will ask me, well, what makes you an expert in fields of connection? And I would say, well, probably because I know what it feels like to be extremely connected, and I know what it feels like to be extremely disconnected, and I know the difference. Mm-hmm. And I also know how to get back into connection, and I know when it's actually healthy to disconnect and to separate. So
I don't know that I've ever said this on this podcast. A few of my closest friends know this. I actually describe myself in certain circles. Now, this is going to be the bigger circle of everybody who listens to this. I actually describe myself as an introverted extrovert. I can be very extroverted in the public eye, but as soon as I get out of the public eye, I become kind of an introvert. And it's something I know about myself that I finally, like you've said, I finally have realized this is how I connect. I can connect on the bigger platforms. I can connect to people, but sometimes you put me in a room of strangers and I'm like, it's not where I feel comfortable.
It's interesting that you should say that, Rick, because I'm hearing more and more from people, from clients and from others about that duality, all right, that real public self and the very, very private self. And sometimes feeling like even if you are in, and I don't know that this is what you were saying, but I know that it's sometimes what I feel, which is I can be very much in an active circle and very extroverted place, but feel very much separate. And so I need a lot of downtime to recover from those periods of hyper connection.
Exactly. So, well, let's kind of go where you were going. You started talking about your own coming out journey and how that was kind of a space of connection and disconnection for you. So just kind of walk us through, what was that like for you? Because, I know a lot of people listening, they're like, I think I'm the only one, or nobody else has had this experience. And I can almost guarantee you that what you're about to hear, somebody out there is going to go, oh yeah, that's me too. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, man. I have to say, Alan told me he's an open book, which I know he is, but I also just be cognizant that, my guests are going to share what they feel comfortable sharing. So anyway, let her rip, girl. I know.
Well, I think, there are a couple of different moments in my life where I realized that, I could be sort of Houdini, all right? Like I could really disappear. And I could hide. And from the people who cared about me, there's an expression in recovery circles about being as sick as your secrets. And I definitely had a lot of secrets. And so whether it was being in the closet for so many years and feeling very, very much separate from all the nice straight boys and girls that I knew and feeling like my parents would experience so much shame and embarrassment. And, this was also back in the 70s. And it really, as far as we've come, in the 70s, we were really kind of nowhere.
Yep.
And so I didn't feel safe to be who I was. And so my hyper extroversion, I think in a lot of ways, was to mask a feeling of separateness and apartness. And I was, as popular a kid as I was, I never felt like I belonged anywhere because I was holding on to a secret. And, even when I came out and when I came out of my 20s, my parents did not jump for joy. And I remember my dear mother, who was very accepting of my life today, back then was like, well, and she cried for she cried for 2 years, I was told, and we just didn't talk about it. We just kind of danced around it. And I remember her saying she wouldn't march in any parades, and if she did, she certainly wouldn't be waving a flag, and which is probably still the truth today. But I know that she's proud, and so there was that experience of feeling very much in the closet and separate and not accepted for who I was. And then also, and I've shared the story with you, Rick, and others, is if you saw my life from the outside, and like 15 years ago, you would have thought that I had really everything going for me. I had a big job and great careers and great relationship and all the trappings, but behind the curtain, things weren't so pretty. And I was sporting a pretty nasty drug habit. And so for me, separation and disconnection was something that I could, and escaping into fantasy to not have to deal with any kind of pain or shame or anything that I was dealing with was available to me through drugs and alcohol. And so even though I could kid myself in those moments that I was connected, I was a real party boy, and that I was connecting to others, and that I was all that and more, I really was very disconnected from the most important relationships, and more really disconnected from myself and who I was. And so getting sober to me was really probably the first and most profound step into an awareness of who Alan really is, and connecting to the best parts of myself, and letting go of all of the parts of myself that were just no longer working for me. And so I'm still very much an extrovert, but I also feel like having stepped into the truth of who I am, I can connect authentically. And I also know when I'm not being authentic in connection, when I'm trying to get something from someone, or trying to manipulate them, or trying to control them. Awareness is a beautiful thing, because I can call on myself when I'm not being true to who I am. And
I think awareness is it's actually, to me, one of the first places that you really start to get what connection is all about, is the awareness of why you're wanting to connect with someone. And it can be from a genuine place, or it can be from a disingenuous place. And you kind of go from there, because you can either take the disingenuous route, and then everything is going to be all about false connection, or you can take the genuine route, and you may get someone who doesn't want to connect with you, but that's okay. You're being genuinely yourself. But those that want to, and those who really thrive with you, those that, yes, we're using the word connect a lot, but when they really connect with you, it's a real connection. There is no bullshit. There is no pretending. This is like real. And I think people sometimes miss that piece.
I love what you just said too. I really do think that the journey to and through connection is all about awareness, because the more you are awake, the more you're awake, and the more you can see how all of these beautiful dots of our lives connect, and we can see connections, we can make connections, we start noticing how we are so much more alike than not. And that's really cool. It's hard to notice that. It's hard to see that when you're hungover or hiding in a closet.
When you're pretending to be something you're not, it's very hard to see that stuff, I just think that most of us, we will find a way. It can be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be any number of things that will be the thing that causes you to go, okay, I'm not going to connect here. And it becomes the crutch that you hide behind. And it can be food, it can be alcohol, drugs, it can be sex, it can be pure isolation. Isolation can become the drug of choice. And then before you know it, you're not having any genuine connections with anybody for any reason. You're out and wondering, okay, well, why am I so disconnected from the world? Well, it's because you've allowed this other thing to become the reason that you're not connecting with anybody.
Yeah. Well, it's with the acknowledgement that you are worthy of love, allowing other people in. That's really where all the beautiful stuff happens. And so when you get to that place, then you can connect with others in a more truthful and authentic way.
I think what you just said is really powerful, because it does begin to step into the realm of, as we're coming out of the closet, some of the things that we do is we believe, we aren't worthy. We're not, we don't deserve to be loved because people have said that, if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, whatever it may be. And then suddenly that's really the first disconnection of awareness, and the first disconnection to being connected to the truth. and then start to spiral from there. So as you work in this arena, what are some of the things that you recommend people start to do to begin to connect with, others and themselves as you've done some of this work?
Well, I think that there's no shortcut, right? There's no, I think that journey into self-acceptance it happens day over day, year over year. And for me, it really does start with gratitude. And that's something that I have noticed has really increased my ability to feel connection and see connection and create connection for other people. And so gratitude it's easy to feel grateful when life is working for you and you're getting everything that you want and everything is coming easily. And, try practicing gratitude when things aren't. And that's really the difference that makes all the difference. I include a gratitude practice in just to notice the little things that, and to allow and to tell others that I love them and to show appreciation wherever I can. And that I'm a big geek in terms of neuroscience and neuroplasticity and the way that experience of gratitude actually changes our brain and helps us become more resilient and more loving and more grateful and even more able to see connection, to begin to notice all of the incredibly beautiful experiences and loving people that there are around. And I think that, I know that probably sounds awfully woo-woo, and what I would hope that listeners get in this is like, I'm not, I didn't come in, I have to override my negativity bias on a pretty regular basis. I don't wake up in the morning always feel with a skip of my step ready to take on the world. Like, I have to really work at it to override the negativity and to really practice gratitude. It's like, you go to a gym to build big muscles. You can also go to the gym to build emotions, the kind that you want. So if you want to be more loved and if you want to have more connection, then work on being more loving and work on being more connected. And that can happen through things like gratitude practices and savoring and taking in the good. And even if it's just something little, right? I mean, even if it's
absolutely.
Just that nice person that said hello to you this morning, that's worth noticing.
Well, and I also think the negativity is something to be grateful for too, because if we don't experience negativity, we can't ever experience something positive. We've got to kind of have the yin and yang in order to really grasp that, wow, I'm grateful this thing is happening because there's something I'm supposed to be learning from it. And your description of there is no shortcut is so poignant, because so many people show up in this work to, okay, so just tell me how to do this, how to come out. I'm like, I can't. I wish I could. I really wish I could give you here's the magic potion, but there's not. And again, it doesn't have to be just about coming out in your sexual orientation. In fact, I was just working with a client before we hopped on to record this, and she is literally coming out to tell her mother that she doesn't want to be doing the college studies she's doing. And she has scraped together all of her own funds to even be working with me. And, I'm doing some almost pro bono, but some work just because she approached me when I was at a university speaking, going, I really need to work with you. And I thought, okay, young gal, okay, we're going to go down this route of, coming out in your sexual orientation or bisexual or whatever. And when she contacted me, she goes, so I just need you to know this has nothing to do with my sexuality. I'm like, oh, okay. What does it have to do with it? She goes, I've got to come out to my mother that I don't like what I'm doing. I'm not enjoying what I'm studying, and I'm doing this for her. And it's been some really powerful, beautiful work, but also within that work is she's experienced a lot of negativity now that we've started down this path with her mom. And she really can get hung up at times, but then she goes, I really keep, hearing what you said, Rick, about let the negativity be the fuel that drives you forward to get to that positive space where you actually embrace it. And that's her connection that she's made to this work.
Yeah, I really like what you just said, Rick. I think people are too quick to push the negativity down or to judge it, which could be really harmful, versus allowing the negativity to be a signal that there's something that's not working. There's something, perhaps it's a strength that we're not really tapping into, or we're not really aligning with our values. But over time, what one realizes through coaching or any kind of personal growth work is like, the negativity is just sort of a flag. It's just telling you, it's like, okay, like there's something that needs an adjustment. And it's not a bad thing. Like we all experience the duality of emotion that just lives on one side or another of the spectrum, and it's all good.
It is all good. And that's why I wanted to have Alan come on this month during Pride Month, because Pride Month is about not only celebrating the pride in who we are as LGBTQ and the rest of the alphabet that we've now assigned to this, but it's also about celebrating that there's been some pretty negative stuff we've had to go through to get to where we are, where we can even have a pride celebration that we do. And I think for many, many people, I sometimes wish that they could just really focus on, yes, this is a beautiful month to, month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever, because I know pride celebrations go on for a lot of places all over the summer. But I think it's that moment of expressing the joy of the pride, but also embracing all the strides that had to be made, all the negative stuff. And there will be, I remember I marched in a pride parade a couple of years ago, and I usually do go and march with my PFLAG family in the parade, but there's always the haters on the road. And I embrace that. It's like, yes, let's try to interact. Let's try to, and of course they're hateful and they don't want to have anything to do with us. But even in that, there's a connection. There's a connection to humanity that they don't like who we are. I hate to say, okay, we don't like who they are. We don't like what they stand for. I can't say I don't like who they are. I don't like what they stand for. That's basically it. It's like, I'm a human, you're a human. Let's kind of realize that. So a lot of what happens, as you know, Alan, and as I know, and for the listeners who haven't kind of come through that doorway yet, is the coming out piece tends to start to break apart connections to one another. And unfortunate as it is, a lot of people do lose connections to family and friends and church and on and on and on. Hopefully it doesn't go too deep. But what are some of the things that you would like to say helps people start to recreate connections with others as they lose some of those connections? And I know that's kind of a big question. Yeah. I know you probably have some tricks for how do you start reconnecting with people?
Yeah, well, I think, I'm thinking back to my early years and, when I first came out and
back in the Stone Age, right?
A few close friends, then close friends, yeah. They were not accepting and they dropped off, and it was very painful. And I carried a lot of shame and resentment and hurt. And what I've had to do over the years is really do some forgiveness work to heal those parts of myself that were left feeling incomplete. And in some instances, actually reached back to some of them, not to try to get them to change their mind or anything like that, but just really to try to see if it was possible to have a friendship or to just complete whatever it was that was unfinished. Mm-hmm. And then for the most part, it's been actually a really beautiful experience. I think that to the younger people on the call or people who are older, perhaps in coming out, I think most of us have experienced struggle in that process. And I know for some it's been horrible. They've been turned out of their homes by their parents. And it's just horrible. I can't even imagine what that might be like. I know I've experienced it only to a lesser degree with some people that I cared about. But I think that what's really important to know is that there's so many people out there who do love you and who will support you, and to just find something where you can feel accepted and loved. There are so many organizations out there. There's so many loving people who are just waiting to be that support to you. And You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be on your own. And to quote the slogan, it does get better. And I know it's, sound like some old fart telling you, it's like, I remember but I do believe that every experience that we go through, if we choose to see it in this way, will make us stronger. It will, at some point, will be a purpose in it, something that we can share with others to help provide comfort to them when they're going through the struggle. And
well, it's tough.
We're in it together.
Yeah, but it's tough when you're in the middle of it. And Alan and I are raising our hands here right now that we understand it's really tough when you're in the midst of it to believe that it's going to get better and everything. In fact, I'm really glad you brought up the forgiveness thing. And, of course, Facebook, which is the source of all true stuff,
and resentment.
Yeah, and resentments and fake news and everything else. But we won't even go there. But it was interesting this morning. Somebody posted, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but the ultimate act of forgiveness is when you realize you're not going to get the forgiveness you so desire. And I thought, wow, that's pretty profound, because when you finally have to just come to that connecting point of, okay, I'd really like to get some forgiveness from this person, or I'd really like to have them say, I'm sorry to me, or you need to give it to someone and someone's not going to let you give that to them. When you can finally cross over, that actually is a connection point too. And I think it's a tough one. I know for me in my journey out of the closet, there's been moments with my own family that I was like, I'm done. I'm so done. And I'm not saying I won't go through it again, but I think I'm to the place now where I'm like, the energy is, it's just way too much to expend to just keep going. Okay, come on, come to my way of thinking. It's not worth it anymore. So accept them as they are, as long as there's not something brutally happening that's really infringing on my life, and I've had some recent stuff with some certain family members where I'm just like, I can't do this, but I'm also not going to hold them in that space of screw you, because the energy is not worth it. And again, that's a connection point. These are about making connections to what is driving you to be in pain, as much as what you believe others are doing to keep you in pain. And sometimes it's the awareness, and you finally get that connecting piece of what you're doing to cause yourself pain. And sometimes you let it go. You gotta let people go.
Once you can connect to it, you can release it, transform it, turn it into something else. But it's the struggle is real. Mm-hmm. And most gay people, we're speaking specifically about that, have experienced some kind of homophobia, internalized or other. And, we're surrounded by messages that are telling us that we're not wanted here. And so that's not the truth on a spiritual level. We're absolutely, we have every right to be here, and there's a place, but it's hard sometimes to not be taken in by that lie, by, this minority of people who don't see our amazing value and don't love and respect us in the way that we want to be loved and respected. I remember, Rick, when I was in my early 20s, having to go downstairs into the basement and into one of the phone lines in my house and call gay switchboards and, in a low, soft voice to find out where does a 20-year-old gay person go? And, it's so different. We had our closets then, and there's still closets that we all experience. But there's hope. There's absolutely hope. That who would have thought that 30 years later I'd be on a podcast, talking to so many people and hopefully giving them some hope about what's possible.
Well, and that's true. A couple of years ago, there's a pastor, and I don't know if he's still at the church in LA, but in the Unitarian church, and he was at an event I was at, and he said, one of the greatest spiritual journeys we have is coming out of the closet, but also the other piece of the spiritual journey is realizing, to what you just said, we're all here put on the planet for a very specific reason. And that specific reason is so that we can all see each other and learn from one another. And he goes, the people who aren't accepting of you, it's just they haven't learned what they need to learn yet. So they're going to be continuing to be confronted with homosexuals and bisexuals and transgenders, and some of them will never learn, and that will be their life journey. But each time they're confronted, they have to confront their own stuff. Just like each time we're confronted, we have to, be confronted. And I know I see in myself on the rare occasion that I do get confronted by a hater, I see stuff in my own life. It's like, wow, this is being shown to me because there's something I need to go clean up in my life. Around here. That's the bottom line. And especially those of us who've been around addiction and been through the addiction, journey, it's one of the most powerful things to help you really begin to see your own stuff very deeply. And not that I advocate anybody needs to go through the deep dive, addiction journey to really see it. But for some of us, that's our path. It's that simple, Yeah. And it helps us, again, connect. I think you would be connected quite differently to your truth had you not gone through the addiction stuff. And I know for me, I would have been connected to my truth a whole different pattern if I had not gone through my addiction of, being out there screwing around with all these guys while I was married, because that was an addiction. I know now at this point that was an addiction for me.
Yeah.
Those moments help us see stuff.
I have no regrets. I used to roll my eyes when I hear people talking about being grateful that they've recovered from or in recovery from an addiction, and I never really understood what that meant, but I totally get that now. Like, I'm very grateful to be in recovery and grateful to have gone through everything that I've gone through. You know, I wish that certain things had been easier, but it's all part of that journey. And
it's a powerful journey. I think that's the thing. That's what I find so amazing, is when you can actually see the power of the journey and what it's enabling you to do and how it's enabling you to show up. That's the difference. That's when you start to really, truly get it. And you can appreciate how much that's feeding you. And again, how much that's creating yet another connection. You know, I've had numerous people tell me throughout the years as I've done this coaching, it's an obvious thing, but I like to share it, is the reason they come is they can connect with me because they know I've lived their journey to some degree. In fact, I literally just got off the phone with someone not 45 minutes ago who said, I so appreciate, you know, having you here because I know I can lean into you, and you've had the similar experience. And I jokingly had said to him not long before that, like, so let's just imagine for a moment that if I wasn't here, you know, that I fell off the face of the earth and I was going, you know, what would you do? That's where I was heading. He's like, oh my God, I can't imagine if you fall off the face of the earth, what I'd do. And I'm like, you'd get by, but it's that connecting point. They get it, you know, and I know there's people that connect to you because some of the positions you've held and the things that you do, it's like we all find those connecting pieces that really enable us, no matter where we're going, to go through what we need to go through, provided, and this is my little caveat to what I'm saying, that you enable yourself to let yourself go there. You can't connect if you don't enable yourself to say, okay, I really need to connect. And as scary as it is, as uncomfortable as it can make you feel to walk into some place where you don't feel connected, you know, and I'm talking true like networking things at, you know, at this point, sometimes just drop the shield and go, okay, let's just be here. Let's just be here in this moment without any expectations. So you're doing some really powerful work, my friend, on the connection level and everything else. And I love it. As we wind up, because we've already blown through 30 minutes and you and I could chat for hours. As we both know, we've done that numerous times on different occasions of just chatting. If you could leave, you know, some last little bit of advice for someone who's stuck or trying to come through this closet door or feeling like they don't feel connected to themselves or to someone else, what would be the last thing you'd love to leave with our listeners?
Well, I think we all have within us this little light of courage. Sometimes is overshadowed by all of the fears and all of the judgments that we've either put on ourselves or that we experience from others. And I just invite everyone to be courageous, and whatever that means to you. And if that means just reaching out for help, asking somebody for what you need, and be courageous that you might not always get it on the first shot. But keep on asking for what you need, and over time, your intuition will guide you to get the help and the support that you need from the people who are there to provide it for you. But none of us go through life alone, and we are all connected on some level, and it is really just about finding the path to that and through that. It's there for us. It's what we are hardwired for, connection. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and it is very present. As you were talking, I was thinking, you know, it's so amazing how in this world these days we are even more connected than we've ever been through technology and everything else. But sometimes the technology is also what creates the disconnect, and the courage to go connect with people is actually becoming a lost art form. And I'm so glad you brought that up towards the end here, Alan, because I think it is something that we all need to pay a little more attention to. And for those of you listening, to just know that, you know, you've taken the first step, just having the courage to listen to these podcasts and hear other people's stories. That is a courage connection right there. And that may be all you have, depending on where you are. This may be all you have right now. And just embrace that. Be grateful that you've got this. And as you continue to listen, you will find connections and you will find ways, and we'll keep bringing you resources to help you find whatever is the best connection for you to take the direction that you need to take for your life. I'm so thankful I have you around, man, and that you were here with us today. You're such a beautiful presence on the planet, and thanks for doing what you do, man.
Thank you, Rick. And happy Pride, everybody.
Yeah, happy Pride, everybody. And just keep celebrating yourself this month as we go through the whole Pride celebrations this month and next month, or wherever you are in the world where there's pride, just remember you have what it takes to connect to your own pride and then share it with others. So there you have it, Closet Dwellers and Closet Busters. Another episode of the Coming Out Lounge has just wrapped up. Thank you so much for listening. I so appreciate each and every one of you who tune in and take in these interviews and my riffs and rants and everything to help hopefully improve your life in some way, shape, or form as you're on your journey coming out to be your most truthful self. And, you know, one of the things that's really important to me is that this podcast gets shared over and over and over again to those who this may be their only way of finding some help and support to get them through these tougher parts of life. So if you could just do a rating and review, that would be super cool. Do it at iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to us. Just give us a little rating and review. And if you feel like sharing, just especially on iTunes, just hit that little share button and boom, you can share it with whoever you want in a message, an email, however you want to do it. Another thing you might want to do is also go to the Coming Out Lounge website. You'll see a little icon there that says Get Rick's Book, and you'll see my smiling, beautiful face, and give yourself the gift of reading the book. It's kind of humorous. Well, it's more than kind of humorous. It's kind of funny. Well, it's more than kind of funny. It is funny, but it's also really real about your journey coming in and out of the closet, and I would love to share that with you. So go ahead, take advantage of that, and grab a copy of my book. And until next time, we hope you just keep stepping out, stepping up, and stepping into living your powerful truth. Take care, everyone, and have a good week.